Hello, welcome to Summerfest Online 2020. Thank you very much for coming along to view these presentations. Just a quick reminder that we have a number of exhibitors in the exhibitors hall. If you want to go along and have a quick browse, maybe do some shopping, then we'd love to see you. And a quick reminder too about our wonderful sponsors, Yayo Hemp Products and Butte Island Cheese. They're also in the exhibitors hall and they'd love to see you too. If you've enjoyed the show, please remember this is a free event, and if you'd like to make a small donation, you'd be very welcome. Please go to the Friends of VegFest page to make a donation. And a reminder too, we have another show in November, London Online, and in next March, Plant Powered Expo. And you can find out all about that on VegfestUK. Thanks very much and enjoy the presentation.
Hello, my name's Isobel Hutchinson and I'm the Director of Animal Aid. Animal Aid is one of the UK's largest and longest established animal rights organisations. We campaign peacefully against all forms of animal cruelty and promote cruelty-free living. And of course, a big part of that is encouraging people to go vegan and supporting them in doing that. So I'm going to talk today about some of the main reasons why veganism is such a positive lifestyle choice to make and give a few basic practical tips for getting started too. So first of all, I'd like to talk about why veganism is such a great thing to do for animals. It's arguably the single biggest step that we can all take to help animals. So I'd always thought of myself as an animal lover. I stopped eating meat in my teens, but I carried on eating fish, dairy and eggs for quite some time. And it was only when I started to learn more about animal agriculture and the various industries involved that I was really shocked at what went on and decided that going vegan was the best thing I could do to help animals. So the farming and slaughter industries cause terrible suffering on a huge scale. Close to 1 billion farmed animals are killed for food each year in the UK, and that doesn't include fish. And when you think of that number, it can actually be hard to imagine the individual animals involved, but of course they all are. All of those animals are individuals with personalities, with feelings, and who don't want to die. So if you ever have the opportunity to go to an animal sanctuary and to meet animals who have actually been rescued from the farming industry, that's such a powerful experience for helping to connect with those individual animals. So in terms of what actually happens to animals who are used in these industries, many of them are raised on factory farms. So this is where they're crammed in for maximum profit and deprived of everything that makes their life worth living. And even on so-called higher welfare farms, the conditions are often not all they seem and not what you would expect from the kind of happy-looking egg box packaging. So we've investigated higher welfare farms too, and we've often found that the animals are in cramped conditions with little access to the outdoors. So what about when it comes to the animals being killed? Well, sadly, that's not humane in any way. We filmed inside 16 slaughterhouses in the UK covertly, and we found law breaking in almost all of them. And we're not just talking about technical breaches here, but appalling deliberate abuse in many cases. And the thing to remember again, of course, is that all these animals are individuals. I'll never forget some of the incidents that our covert cameras captured. In one particularly troubling incident, a water buffalo unusually was kept in a stun box where he was waiting to be killed for a very long period of time, and he began to get absolutely desperate and to try to actually leap over the side of the stun box in a desperate but hopeless attempt to escape and to hold on to his life. And that's something that I think will always stay with me. So moving on to the dairy and egg industries, obviously the products themselves don't come from animals who are dead, but slaughter is still an intrinsic part of these industries. One of the key issues is that male chicks are considered of no use to egg farmers, and so they're typically killed at just a day old. And a similar problem is faced by male dairy calves, who are often killed too. And of course, the whole cycle of dairy is appalling. It involves keeping cows trapped in a constant cycle of being made pregnant, having their young taken away, and being exploited for their milk until they can't produce as much and are sent to slaughter. And it's also worth mentioning fish, who I imagine were a better bet and kept eating for many years. And while fish may be very different from us, they have all the nerve chemicals and cell receptors necessary to experience pain and stress. And I also used to imagine that they probably had quite a natural life in the sea. But of course, many are actually kept in horrendous fish farms, which are kind of underwater factory farms. So wanting to help animals is a really compelling reason for going vegan, but there are lots of other reasons too. It's a really good way to help the environment. Animal agriculture is a major cause of greenhouse gas emissions, as well as water pollution and deforestation. And actually, animal agriculture is responsible for more greenhouse gas emissions than all the motorised transport on Earth. And a study by the University of Oxford found that the carbon footprint of a vegan diet is up to 60% smaller than a meat-based one. So going vegan is a really powerful way to help combat climate change. Going vegan is also a really good way to help people. Animal agriculture is a really inefficient way to use land. So meat and dairy provide just 18% of our calories and 37% of our protein, but use 83% of all farmland, which is obviously a really inefficient way to use land. And using those crops directly as food for people rather than using them to feed animals would be much more effective. And of course, this could help with global food security and to help address the issue of world hunger. And of course, that's a very complex issue, and ending animal agriculture isn't the only solution, but it's certainly a necessary component to address it. So obviously, health is at the forefront of all our minds as we're still dealing with the effects of the current pandemic. And animal agriculture poses a serious risk to human health too. More than 60% of almost 1,500 known human pathogens are thought to have originated in animals. And in recent years, animal farming has brought us all sorts of outbreaks, including BSE, bovine TB, foot and mouth, Campylobacter, and many more devastating diseases. And then, of course, there's a huge issue of antibiotic resistance. And a major contributor to this is the fact that huge amounts of antibiotics are often given to farmed animals to keep them alive just long enough to be slaughtered. And finally, on the issue of veganism and people, it's worth bearing in mind the impact of the people who are actually on the front line in these industries. So working in a slaughterhouse is clearly an absolutely horrific job, and slaughterhouses became epicenters of COVID-19 outbreaks in many countries, including the UK, and that resulted in many workers being affected and in some cases even dying. And as well as the disease risk, slaughterhouse workers are at a higher risk of mental health problems like depression and PTSD, and can also be more susceptible to drug and alcohol dependency, which you can imagine due to the incredibly horrific nature of a role working in a slaughterhouse. So I'd just like to move on now to some of the more practical reasons why veganism is such a great thing, or such a great lifestyle choice to make. And one thing I wanted to talk about is budget. And you might actually be surprised by this, because I think vegan diets often have the reputation of being expensive. And it's true that specialist, top of the range meat and dairy replacements can be expensive, but actually a simple vegan diet based around whole foods can be much cheaper. So if you think of the average shopping basket of somebody who has an omnivorous diet, the most expensive items in there will often be meat and dairy. And if you replace those with plant-based proteins and whole foods like beans and lentils, you'll actually save a lot of money. So So I think it's also important to mention that taste is a major reason for going vegan. Vegan food really is delicious. Food's obviously really important to us and we want to enjoy it and to look forward to it. And the great news is that that's absolutely possible on a vegan diet, and there's certainly no need to miss out on any of the food that you love having. So virtually every animal-based product that you could want is now available in vegan form, from cupcakes to chicken Kievs, and these are all sort of readily available in the supermarket too. And it's also a great way to experiment with new flavours and new styles of cooking. And I think most people find when they go vegan that it opens up a whole new world of cooking and different foods that they wouldn't have previously tried. So finally, I just wanted to mention health. I think it's really important to stress that you can get everything you need on a properly planned vegan diet, and health organisations like the NHS and the British Dietetic Association confirm that. Now, of course, a vegan diet won't necessarily be healthy, as a diet consisting of white bread and chips would technically be vegan. But if you plan well, you're likely to find yourself eating lots more veg, fruit, and whole grains. And that sort of a diet is going to be high in fibre and low in cholesterol, which is obviously very healthy. So I just wanted to finish by speaking a little bit about first steps to going vegan. There's so much great information out there. I'm not going to repeat too much of it, but I just wanted to make a few general points. First of all, I think it's really important to get informed. Once you're hopefully inspired to go vegan, it's a good idea to read up on nutrition in particular, just to make sure that you're getting everything that you need. I think it's also worth having a look at what's already vegan, what food you have that you won't need to change at all. You don't need to feel that you'll need to completely throw out the contents of your fridge and cupboards and find different versions of everything. A lot of staple foods, from most dried pasta to tinned beans to most breads, are already going to be vegan, so you don't have to change everything. You might then want to have a look at just making some simple swaps. Although I mentioned veganism is a great way to sort of find new food experiences and try different types of food, when you're getting started, it can be helpful just to keep it really simple. So thinking of your favourite meals and just making simple swaps. So an example would be, if you'd normally have a spaghetti bolognese with meat-based mince, literally just swap that for one of the many plant-based minces available from supermarkets. And that can just be a really quick way to getting started on making vegan meals. Obviously, there are products that you'll need to substitute, like cheese and milk and so on. And a tip for that is just to experiment with lots of different ones. I think everyone has different views as to what milks and cheeses and so on they prefer. There are lots of different ones out there. So do put a bit of time into trying different ones. And if you find that you don't like the first few you try, don't panic. There will be one out there that you'll like. Just keep going, swapping around until you find things that work for you. It's worth joining some vegan groups. There are lots online, and there are lots of physical meetup groups as well around the country, which will hopefully be able to resume a bit more as we move further out of lockdown. I think it's also worth getting some support from an organisation, whether that's through a month-long challenge or just by ordering an information pack. That can be really helpful. At Animal Aid, normally we run our Summer Vegan Pledge throughout the month of June. Unfortunately, that wasn't possible this year due to COVID-19, but we'll be starting that again for next year. In the meantime, we provide our digital vegan pack, which has lots of useful information, including recipes and information about nutrition, and you can download that completely free of charge at any point during the year. You can do that by going to animalaid.org.uk/vegan pack, and you'll find everything you need there. So I think the last thing to say is just, I hope you've enjoyed the talk. Wherever you are on your vegan journey, if you're still just thinking about it or if you're getting started, very best of luck. It's a great thing that you're doing, and you're always very welcome to contact Animal Aid if you need any information or support. Thank you.